Hello, I'm MrTieDye, and today I'm here to talk more about soda ash. I'd done a quick video a while back on just how to mix it, but I've had lots of questions to explain a little bit more details about what soda ash is, what it does, when to use it. So anyway, soda ash is just a white powdery substance. You can buy it directly from Dharma or whatever dye house that you buy from, but you can also buy it from a pool supply store. So I have some from both places, and what I'm going to do is show various ways of how I mix it, and then the other thing, some people have asked about baking soda. Baking soda is not soda ash. The technical term for this, the soda ash, is sodium carbonate. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. So it's close, but it's not the same. But you can heat this in the oven and turn it into soda ash. So what I'm going to do is do kind of a test on the other two soda ashes and on the baked soda ash here. So what I have, I measured out 2 cups and I got myself a baking pan, and I'm just following the directions of what I read on the Paula Birch site, and it said just to spread this out in a baking sheet here and then bake it in the oven at 400 degrees for 1 hour. So I'm going to go ahead and get this baking, and then I'm going to get back and show you how I mix these other ones and then talk a little bit more about it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so that's in the oven now. So what I'm going to do is kind of talk a little bit about it. So soda ash is what we use to activate the fiber reactive Procion dyes, and you can buy those at various places here. So this is from Dharma, this is Procion dye, this is from Custom Colors, Procion dye, and this is from Grateful Dyes. They're all Procion dyes, so you can buy this from many places, but the soda ash actually activates the dyes. There's also the one-step kits that you can buy in the stores. I don't know the ins and outs of all of them, but typically if it's a one-step, most likely that means that the soda ash has been mixed in with the dye. So you have your dye powder and your soda ash mixed together, so when you pour it into one of your bottles and pour water in there, then your soda ash is already mixed in. But what that also means, as soon as the soda ash and the dye come in contact with water, then the dye is active. So it's going to need to be used quickly. So if you're using one of the one-step kits, I would recommend not mixing your dyes until you're ready to actually put them on your t-shirts. But if you want better colors, I would still recommend that you get some soda ash and do a pre-soak, because personally I haven't used the kits, but I've heard from other people and they get the results that are the t-shirts just look faded. So you want to use soda ash if you're using any kind of Procion dyes. So with that being said, there's a couple ways that I mix them up. So if I'm going to do use a blender, what I would do is just pour my water in, and I use hot water. The soda ash tends to blend up faster, or dissolve faster in hot water. So I just got a gallon of hot water here. And then what I'm going to do is pour in the soda ash and start blending it immediately. So I have one of these hand blenders here. And don't worry, I'll show you another method in case you don't have a hand blender. But you want to start blending as soon as the soda ash hits the water, because if the soda ash goes in and sits for very long, it will just kind of turn into a big solid chunk, and I haven't had any luck breaking those up. I think you'd have to use a hammer or something to chip those back down into powder again. So anyways, we're going to blend this up right now. Okay, so there is my soda ash from the pool supply store. We're going to set that aside. Now another way that you can do it is use one of these bottles. What I'm going to do, I have a gallon of water here, but I'm going to pour half of it out into my tub here, just to give me room to shake the jug here. So once again, you want to be fast acting with this, so you want to make sure that there's no chunks or whatever in your thing that's going to clog your funnel here, so that you can quickly pour it in, put the cap on, and then start shaking it. Because once again, if you leave it set for too long, which I've poured it in and walked off and talked on the phone and came back, and there was just a big solid chunk down in the bottom here. So I tend to pour this in quickly. I just shake my funnel to get it to go in. And this is 1 cup to 1 gallon. Ultimately, you want to have your soda ash, the pH, at a number between 10.6 and 11. So it usually dissolves it pretty quickly. I can hold it up to the light here and see that there's no chunks floating around in there. There's just a little bit of powder with that. That's fine. So once I get that all shook up, then I can pour it in here with the rest of this water. So this is 1 cup of the powder to 1 gallon of water. And we're going to use that after a bit here too. So now the only thing that we're waiting on is the other soda ash. That still has to bake for a while, but I'll come back to that. And then what I'm going to do is do a test on all 3 of the soda ashes here. I have my little pH strips here. So we're going to test to see what we have here with the pH. So I'll be right back. Okay, and so another name, another place you can get the sodium carbonate at, like I say, if you go into the pool supply store, you can either tell them soda ash or sodium carbonate. The main thing you want to make sure is you don't get the sodium bicarbonate, or you'll have to bake it like what we're doing here. It's much easier if you can just get sodium carbonate to get that. You can also get washing soda, which I haven't used that either, but that's in the laundry department, and that's typically just the soda ash, and you can look on the label usually and see the word soda ash or sodium carbonate. But all of them, you should be able to mix them about 1 cup to 1 gallon. I have my test strips here, and this here, I don't know, these test strips are old, so they might not be accurate, but I tested both of these, and they're measuring right about 13. So what we're going to do is soak a t-shirt in each one of these. So when I'm doing the soda ash soak, I'll soak these in here for 20 minutes, and I make sure that I kind of slosh it around to get all the air bubbles out so that you get it completely coated there. So I'm going to soak these, so while we're baking our baking soda, we'll be soaking our t-shirts here, and then we'll get in and I'm going to do some tie-dye videos. It's time to do Halloween designs, so in other videos coming up soon, I'll be doing some of those with these t-shirts. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes of the t-shirts soaking in the soda ash. So what I do next is I start out by wringing it out by hand. And I'm doing mostly squeezing. I don't want to do too much twisting, because if you twist too much across one of these seams, you could stretch that and break some of those threads in there. So I try to just mostly squeeze with my hands. And then what I'm going to do is spin these out in the washer. So the other thing that you can do is hang them to dry. The one thing you don't want to do is put a soda ash soaked tea in the dryer. I haven't had it happen to me, but back in the day, I guess a dyer had done that so often that a lot of the dry soda ash dust had built up in the dryer, and then that caught fire. So don't put soda ash soaked teas in the dryer. You either need to, this here for me is too wet. Now I could spend more time squeezing and getting more of that out, but I don't want to wreck my hands. So you can hang these up until they're just barely damp, or like I say, you can spin them out in the washing machine, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so here we are at the washing machine. So what I do is I just take my t-shirts that I've wrung out by hand just to get most of the soda ash out of them, because I don't want to waste a bunch of soda ash with it going down the drain with the spin out process. The other thing you can do if you want is disconnect your hose back here and have it go right into a bucket. Then when you spin it out, you're saving all your soda ash. But I'm not going to mess with that right now. The other thing you want to make sure of before you start doing your spin out is that your washer does not spray water during the spin out cycle. Some of them do right at the beginning of the cycle. An easy way to test that is to toss a couple dry t-shirts in to your washer, put it on the spin cycle, and turn it on. Most of the time you should be able to hear it, but sometimes it's just a little bit of water, which is enough to dilute the soda ash. So spin it for a little bit, turn it off, open it up. If your t-shirts are wet, then it's spitting water. The other thing you can do is go back here to your spin cycle and maybe set it towards the end of the cycle instead of at the beginning of the cycle. So I know mine doesn't spit water, so I'll put it at the beginning of the cycle here. And then I just close the washer and turn that on. Okay, after about a minute, then they're just barely damp, and that's my preferred method for folding these, is just to have them barely damp. So we'll pull these back out and we'll go do some videos here. Okay, so I finished up baking my baking soda to turn it into soda ash, and then I used just 1 cup. Remember, I baked up 2 cups, and that was because I wasn't sure if the same amount of soda ash, homemade soda ash, was going to be the same. So anyways, I started with 1 cup, mixed it into 1 gallon, and then I did my test strip, and it tested the same as the other. Well, let's just do it here. So the way these test strips work is it's going to turn a color here depending on what the thing is, and for the optimum it should be somewhere between 10 and 11 down here. My stuff has been testing around 13. Now that might be due to the fact that this is older test strips. I've had it for several years, so when I hold this color up here, maybe that's, yeah, it goes at about 12 here. So I'm just going to assume that my test strips are just a little bit off. But the fact that all 3, the soda ash from Dharma, the soda ash from the Pool Supply, and my homemade soda ash, all 3 of them test the same here, right around 12. I'm going to assume that my strips are a little bit off, but that all of my soda ashes are going to be the same. So anyways, I'm going to put this in with the rest of my soda ash, and same thing with this excess powder here. I'll just mix that in with my other soda ash powder and we'll call it good. So anyways, that's what you use soda ash for. You're using it for your Procion dyes, and you mix 1 cup to 1 gallon. I pre-soak my t-shirts for 20 minutes in them, and then I wring them out by hand, and then I spin them out in the washer until they're barely damp. So whenever I start a video and I say that my t-shirt's been soaked and spun out and barely damp, that's because I've gone through this whole process with the soda ash. And then the soda ash also, you can keep this. This doesn't go bad. So you can just put it back in a jug, put a lid on it. Or if you have a 5-gallon bucket with a lid, you can just put that on there. And I never pour my soda ash out. I just continue to add and make more. So when my 5-gallon bucket starts to get low, then I'll just make up another gallon or 2 of soda ash, pour it in, and I just keep using it. Sometimes it'll be discolored just a little bit, and that's not bad. If you're doing some over dyes where you're re-soaking a dyed t-shirt, I won't drop it into my whole 5-gallon bucket. I'll put maybe like a half gallon in a little pail and soak my t-shirt in there, because some of that dye will kind of leach out and discolor your soda ash. And I don't know if that will go back into the t-shirts or not, but just to stay on the safe side, I don't re-soak an already dyed t-shirt in my brand new soda ash. I do that in a separate bucket so I can just pour the excess out. I think that's all I have to say about soda ash. If you guys have any more questions, you can post them down in the comment section, and I try to come in at least once a week and answer those questions. Thank you, and have a nice day.